administration conspired to subvert President Trump's 2016 election victory and undermine the democratic will of the American people. While publicly pretending to engage in a peaceful transfer of power, in private, former President Obama went to great and nefarious lengths to try to sow discord among the public and sabotage his successor, President Trump. The new evidence released by the Director of National Intelligence, who is here with me today, confirms that the Obama administration manufactured politicized intelligence, which was later used as the justification for baseless smears against President Trump in an effort to try to delegitimize his victory before he even took the oath of office. The truth is that President Trump never had anything to do with Russia, and the Russia collusion hoax was a massive fraud perpetuated on the American people from the very beginning. And the worst part of this is Obama knew that truth, and so did all of the other corrupt officials involved in this scam, including former CIA Director John Brennan, former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, former FBI Director James Comey, former Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, and many others. Director of National Intelligence Gabbard's report further confirms what we already knew. There was no collusion, no corruption, except on the part of Barack Obama and the weaponized intelligence agencies at the time. The Russia hoax was a blatant lie, all ginned up by Democrat political operatives that were signed off on by then President Obama and leaked to the news media to launch a years-long witch hunt against President Trump and his first administration. Allies of the president, including his own son, Donald Trump Jr., were disgustingly smeared as Russian assets, and some even had their lives destroyed because of this vicious lie.
At President Trump's direction and with the support and coordination with the House Intelligence Committee Chairman Rick Crawford, today we've released a declassified oversight majority staff report that was produced in September of 2020. The stunning revelations that we are releasing today should be of concern to every American. This is not about Democrats or Republicans. This has to do with the integrity of our democratic republic and American voters having faith that the votes cast will count. There is irrefutable evidence that detail how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false. They knew it would promote this contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help President Trump win, selling it to the American people as though it were true. It wasn't. The report that we released today shows in great detail how they carried this out. They manufactured findings from shoddy sources. They suppressed evidence and credible intelligence that disproved their false claims. They disobeyed traditional tradecraft intelligence community standards and withheld the truth from the American people. In doing so, they conspired to subvert the will of the American people who elected Donald Trump in that election in November of 2016. They worked with their partners in the media to promote this lie, ultimately to undermine the legitimacy of President Trump and launching what would be a years-long coup against him and his administration. We're here today because the American people deserve the truth, they deserve accountability, and they deserve justice. The report goes into great detail about the information that Russia and Putin had on Hillary Clinton, which included possible criminal acts like secret meetings with multiple named U.S. religious organizations in which State Department officials offered, in exchange for supporting Secretary Clinton's campaign for the presidency, significant increases in financing from the State Department. They also had documents that showed the patronage of the State Department to State Department employees who would go and support Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. There were high-level DNC emails that detailed evidence of Hillary's, quote, psycho-emotional problems, uncontrolled fits of anger, aggression, and cheerfulness, and that then Secretary Clinton was allegedly on a daily regimen of heavy tranquilizers. Then CIA Director Brennan and the intelligence community mischaracterized intelligence and relied on dubious substandard sources to create a contrived false narrative that Putin developed a quote-unquote clear preference for Trump. The implications of this are far-reaching and have to do with the integrity of our democratic republic. It has to do with an outgoing president taking action to manufacture intelligence to undermine and usurp the will of the American people in that election and launch what would be a years-long coup against the incoming President of the United States, Donald Trump.
First, on Secretary Rubio, he put out a statement in 2020 following that Senate Intelligence Committee report, and he said what they found is troubling. We found irrefutable evidence of Russian meddling, which the Director of National Intelligence just confirmed for all of you, that Russia was trying to sow distrust and chaos. But what's the outrage in this that Secretary Rubio did not say at the time, the Democrats were saying at the time, is the fact that the intelligence community was concocting this narrative that the president colluded with the Russians, that the president's son was holding secret meetings with the Russians, all of these lies that were never true. And he also said at that time, we discovered deeply troubling actions taken by the FBI under Comey, particularly their acceptance and willingness to rely on the Steele dossier without verifying its methodology or sourcing. The Steele dossier that many outlets in this room ran as the gospel truth, and it was cooked up and paid for by the Clinton campaign. As for your second question, Caitlin, I think who is saying that she would release this to try to boost her standing with the president? Who has said that?
Well, the president has publicly undermined her when it came to Iran. He said she was wrong. He told me that she didn't know what she was talking about. That was on Air Force One on camera.
The only people who are suggesting that the Director of National Intelligence would release evidence to try to boost her standing with the president are the people in this room who constantly try to sow distrust and chaos amongst the president's cabinet, and it is not working. I will just answer your question directly. I am with the President of the United States every day. He has the utmost confidence in Director Gabbard. He always has. He continues to. And that is true of his entire cabinet, who is all working as one team to deliver on the promises this president made.
They're laughing at us. The only way we do this is to tell them nothing else happens until we take this on. If we don't take down the deep state in this term, it's over. This is America's last chance.
The expressed intent and what followed afterward can only be described as a years-long coup and a treasonous conspiracy against the American people, our republic, and an attempt to undermine President Trump's administration.
I think this is a huge stress test for Trump and his coalition, which, you know, it's not all of MAGA, but it is Stuart Rhodes, it is Stephen Bannon, it is Michael Flynn, it is a certain significant portion of his base that is animated by this notion that the deep state and the dismantling of the deep state are job number one for Donald Trump. It's bigger than any tariff war or any social safety net program or even maybe immigration. For them, this is the animating sort of factor in their support for Trump. And it's why Stuart Rhodes said Donald Trump's life was spared during the assassination attempts. He was here to dismantle this elite cabal and open back up our democracy, right? I'm paraphrasing.
Number one, it's very simple. The deep state must be destroyed to free the American people. Is there any question about that? Is there any question about that? We have to destroy the deep state, and this is elements of the Pentagon, the Justice Department, the FBI, the CIA, certain elements that work under DNI, those 17 intelligence agencies, also parts of the State Department, the USAIDs of the world. That inner apparatus controls the government, and when President Trump tries to do something, they're always trying to thwart his actions, right? You see the leaks. When Homan's sending these brave men and women into Los Angeles to do these raids, like the raid about the children trafficked to the marijuana farm to work, they're lying in wait for him. They're lying in wait for the agents. They got weapons to shoot. How does the protesters? Because somebody inside leaked it to them. Somebody inside leaks it to the media. That's the deep state every day. It must be destroyed. We're not free.
This is their cause, the deep state. And Steve Bannon said, look, it's not that he's going to lose. It's not that Trump could lose his entire coalition in the course of this Epstein saga. It's just that he could lose 10 to 15%. And that's enough to lose the House. And that's enough to lose Congress in 2026 and the presidency in 2028. And I think that's real math.
Wednesday, 23 July, year of the Lord 2025, another historic day in the briefing room, and this is so smart because they're forced to sit there and cover it. Caitlin Collins and all those smug people are forced to sit there and hear Tulsi Gabbard, and that was a command performance today. Her performance has up to now been amazing. President Trump, you heard last night, we played on the morning show about talking to the members of Congress.
It was a command performance, and she's got command presence. She's unflappable. And she's just giving you fact after fact after fact. And to call it a coup from the White House press briefing room, now we've had it from the Oval Office, from the president and the director of DNI, a treasonous conspiracy, and using and calling out Obama by name, calling out Brennan by name, calling out Comey by name. The stakes don't get any higher, folks. I hope you understand that this is in Obama denying it, coming out denying it, and all day. You should see the meltdown on MSNBC all afternoon with Weissman and these folks. And the Wall Street Journal and the Murdochs, as I have warned for years, are true enemies of this movement, true enemies of MAGA, true enemies of the United States, and particularly true enemies of President Trump. The other day, the half-baked story where they dropped it because Tulsi was releasing the first information on Friday to Bigfoot the story with the fake news phony poem and the phony drawing that they've never shown anybody. Today, Tulsi comes for a command performance, and Caroline Leavitt looked him right in the eye and said, hey, you guys are good. You're paying people that are named in these documents that are guilty of a treasonous conspiracy, right, and a coup against a sitting president, and you're paying them as commentators for the last years and just sit there for 6 or 7 years and hammer every day their lies and misrepresentations, as she's showing. And what does the Wall Street Journal do? Immediately after that, they drop another story about President Trump. Oh, President Trump, you know, he's got this with Epstein. And President Trump and Caroline come out right away and say fake news. The Wall Street Journal is the enemy. They're coming after Trump with half-baked fake news, and they're trying to do it every day to Bigfoot, what Tulsi Gabbard's coming out with fact. Okay, we're going to take a short break and listen.